Every supply chain leader today has a digital roadmap. They've got AI, automation, dare I say it, generative AI. It's all on the cloud, and they're all buzzwords. But what if I told you that your digital roadmap may be unaffordable? So companies talk about digital transformation in terms of innovation, but in many instances, the real question is, how are you going to pay for it? And is your budget model actually setting you up for failure? Okay, today I'm back again with James from Strategic Blue, and we're going to be unpacking some of the hidden financial traps in supply chain digitization. Whether we're talking about OPEX versus CAPEX to procurement headaches, we're covering the mistakes that companies make, and more importantly, how to fix them. All right, James, look, let's start with a finance problem that most supply chain leaders miss. In traditional supply chain investments, we tend to think about, CAPEX. In those instances, what we're thinking about, big upfront costs, long-term returns of investment. But it strikes me from the conversations we've been having that ultimately cloud computing is very different from that. It's more of an OPEX. In that instance, we're sort of looking at monthly variable costs. Why does this even create any issues?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head, really. It's going from the sort of fixed CAPEX model, where you're making those investments in procurement folks, finance folks, are making those investments over long periods of time, and they know what they're spending over that period of time. And now on the cloud, it's switched to this OPEX model, where it's variable month by month, but it's also variable second by second. Cloud billing is by the second. And imagine trying to understand your cost point to your customers when you've got, per the second cloud cost variables behind you, or your profitability on the cloud, or how you forecast any of this stuff becomes an absolute nightmare.
So in supply chain, we are accustomed to optimizing warehousing space, transportation, truck fill rate, you name it, last mile optimization, we do it all. But it strikes me that in the cloud, businesses often just leave it running.
They do, and that's one of the biggest problems, is that's not how the cloud was designed. It's not how the billing was designed on the cloud. It is variable. So therefore you need to be flexible if you're going to keep up with that. You cannot treat cloud the same way as IT investments of the past.
All right, my favorite topic. Let's talk procurement. Most supply chain contracts are long-term. You're talking about bulk orders, they have predictable costs, but cloud procurement, it is different from that. So what are the main challenges that we see?
Procurement teams are used to the way that they've been doing things. They're used to those contracts over long periods of time for fixed amounts. And that's just not the way it is these days. And the issue is that creates a heck of a lot of problems, and it can create issues where you're overpaying when you don't need to be.
All right, so look, that sounds relatively straightforward, even I'm picking it up, but I'm going to need an example.
So take an enterprise level customer, for example, that's on a private pricing arrangement with AWS or one of the other cloud providers. And that seems great because that's comfortable for them, because they're going, well, I'm going to commit for 3 years of cloud spend and I get this really big discount over here. And that always sounds amazing to people. And it's normal and natural for them based on how they've previously been doing IT procurement. The issue is that should in the future your product roadmap change, your technology stack change, you might go through a modernization project, you might have a requirement to start looking at other cloud providers. You're now stuck in that fixed contract that you can't get out of, and if you don't pay what you've agreed to pay under the contract, you're screwed.
All right, Jim, so look, if I heard you correctly, what you're effectively saying is that instead of saving money, a lot of companies end up actually stuck in inflexibility.
Absolutely, and it's about that procurement method. It can't be the same as it has been in the past. It needs a different procurement method, a flexible procurement method that matches how the cloud runs.
All right, so I think it's been good that we had the example, but let's zoom right out there. Every supply chain leader, they're all talking about digital transformation. That's the thing. That is the new little black dress for us all. But what are the financial blind spots that we're all missing?
Well, there's a few, and the biggest one is shadow IT, and we see that across a load of organisations, commercial and public sector. It is actually really prevalent with a lot of our public sector customers that we work with. Amazing research projects that are being spent on a credit card somewhere else. Central IT has no visibility of that, right? Sometimes the cloud provider has no visibility of that. So shadow IT is a massive, massive issue. And also just visibility of what your cloud costs are, which sounds really weird because the cloud providers give you so much information, so much data, that you should think that you have enough visibility to make informed decisions. But actually what you're doing is you're getting overloaded with all this granular information that doesn't make sense to different people in different teams. And you have this battle that happens between the technology department and the finance department about what these services are, what are these products, what are the costs, why are the costs like this? And that's sort of the challenge that you have with all this data that the cloud providers throw at you.
You know what, James, that scares the hell out of me. As a business owner, you know, we're an AWS customer, and we've been in a position before where we've suddenly had a spike in cost, and it's really hard to actually understand where it's come from. And more often than not, when you do eventually work it out, is because somebody's left something on that they shouldn't have. It's a data scientist somewhere that's been doing some research, and they haven't switched off their SageMaker instance or something, or notebook. So given that supply chain companies track everything from forklift utilization down to where their pallets are, tack move, we track it all. But are you really saying that it's possible that we just have no idea what's happening across our cloud infrastructure?
Unfortunately, that's the case more often than not. And that's why it's so important that you have the right governance in place. You're able to forecast, you have your budget set up, your alerts set up. You need that in place because it's so common and easy to get it wrong.
All right, James, look, again, as always, you've scared me. You've made it very curious. I'm really excited, but this is the moment. This is your time. So here we are. Let's get to the solution. If I'm a supply chain leader, what is the one strategy I can implement tomorrow to align my cloud costs with my business goals?
Treat it like a supply chain asset. That is the simplest thing that you can do. And that's what you're best at when you're working in the supply chain industry. So treat it like a supply chain asset, look at the forecasting, look at the budgeting, be as flexible as you can be, and you'll be fine.
So if I hear you correctly, what you're saying is supply chain teams and leaders, they already have more or less the right skill set. They just need to apply it to cloud computing.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine if they managed the cloud usage with the same governance and the same discipline as they did with inventory control, for example. I mean, the savings would be massive.
Mate, this has been absolutely eye-opening once more. And you know, when we think about digital transformation, we tend to see it as an innovation play. But what we've learned today is that it's as much a financial challenge also.
It absolutely is. And companies that ignore their cloud costs are really going to struggle with their digital roadmap. The good news, it's fixable.
All right, so someone's watching this video today. They're responsible for, their cloud spend, and they're thinking, okay, what am I going to do next in order to get this all under control? What's the next step?
Come and talk to us. Come and talk to Strategic Blue. We do a free assessment where we'll look at everything that you're doing today, where it's going well, where you can get more efficiencies, and we'll take it from there.
All right, so I mean, that's brilliant, and we all like free stuff. So what we'll do is we'll drop the link below. So if you are leading a supply chain transformation, don't let cloud costs, derail your entire digital roadmap. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.